right, I have hit probably like the most difficult stretch in my content journey for 2024. So my main goal at the beginning of the year was to record some piece of content on YouTube every single day, whether it be a short, long form content or a live, and it hasn't been too bad. It's been a little bit difficult here and there, but for the most part, it hasn't been too bad. We are at day 122, so we made it past the 100-day mark, which is fantastic. However, we're running into a bit of a struggle because over the next few days I will be gone. So the next few videos that you see, I will be wearing my Yu Yu Hakusho shirt because I'm recording all of them at once, and then I'll just schedule them. But I think we'll be able to make it. So today we have a video, and then tomorrow we'll have a video, and then Friday I plan on going live at the Indianapolis Regional Tournament. So before the doors open, just to kind of give everybody like a feel for, you know, a sneak peek behind the scenes, get a feel for what everything looks like at a regional event before it gets absolutely nuts, before it gets crazy. Walk around, see what the vendors all have, show you different areas of it's a huge convention center, but just to kind of get a feel, because I know there's a lot of people who haven't attended one. I've gotten a lot of questions about what to expect, so this kind of lays everything out for you, and then figured it would be fun just to kind of go live and do that. Saturday I should be able to put together a short, hopefully, and then Sunday we'll have another video wearing my Yu Yu Hakusho shirt. So hopefully everything goes well, hopefully everything goes according to plan, but we are on day 122. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if we're going to make it, but we're going to keep going. We're still trucking along, which is great, and I have finally come to peace with the insane Pokemon card market. So I am okay talking about alternate arts, and that's the topic for this week. That is what we're going to talk about over the next few days. But to preface, because the market is crazy, right? Like we've talked about this, it's going nuts. Like everything, it just seems is going up, 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 up. But we've talked about this before with the Pokemon card market being extremely cyclical. So if you've missed out on something, it's extremely important to be patient, exercise patience. It is okay to miss out on a card, even if it's something that you really want, something that you really love. We will continue to talk about ways to bring that cost down. We've talked about things that you can do with your bulk, things that you can pull out of your bulk to try and start, you know, adding up a little bit of credit here and there. So even if a price does increase and never comes back down to where you felt more comfortable, there are still ways that we can kind of decrease the value of that card, so to speak, based off of having your collection work for you. But the most important thing is don't make any rash decisions based off of emotions, because when that happens, it's never a good thing. People get frustrated and they end up leaving the hobby. And the last thing that I want you guys to do is leave the hobby, because it is a really, really fun place to be. I have sold off my collection multiple times because I needed to, because it was something that I needed to make an adult decision. It was something that I felt I had to do. And then I just had to slowly rebuild, slowly build it back up. I knew I wasn't going to exit the hobby completely, but it took time, and all great things do take time. So it's extremely important not to FOMO. And this slideshow, hopefully, talking about the Sun and Moon alternate arts, which is what we're going to talk about today, as a good introduction to what's going on with all of the Sword and Shield era alternate arts, you know, on tomorrow's video and then Sunday's video. Hopefully this will bring everybody down a little bit, bring everybody to ease a little bit, because a lot of the Sun and Moon alternate arts, which exploded in price like crazy, a lot of them have come back down to earth. So buckle up. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to jump right into things. I'm going to flip you guys around and stop rambling. We're going to start out with the one that doesn't really change. This one is nuts. So this is the Latias and Latios. I remember I put if you watch my videos, thank you. But I put a presentation together a week ago or a couple weeks ago where I talked about this card when it originally came out. We were selling it on our website for $25. We pulled like 4 or 5 of them right out of the gates when we opened up, 1,000 booster packs or something like that. As soon as Team Up came out, this one was only like $25, $30. Like it was not a super expensive card, nowhere near the $784 that it sells for right now. But it's a little bit cheaper than where it was. So we had this giant surge in Sun and Moon era alternate arts, where last year during the summer they were talked about like crazy. They blew up like crazy. They just kept climbing, and they reached proportions that I don't think a lot of people were really anticipating or expecting. And because of that, a lot of the focus from Sword and Shield era alternate arts went on to Sun and Moon alternate arts, and a lot of the Sword and Shield era alternate arts started coming back down to earth. They started getting much, much cheaper because the focus was focused on Sun and Moon alternate arts. And the Latias and Latios was a card that just kind of blew up in price. You can see how high it ended up exploding too. We're watching the tail end of it here on this graph, where in May of 2023 it was right around a $475 card, $500 card, and kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and then finally topped out right around October of 2023, September of 2023. It hit that 1 year high of $830.74. Now this is a beautiful card. And the pop reports on Sun and Moon era alternate arts a little bit lower. A lot of people assume that the print runs on those cards were a little bit lower as well because demand wasn't necessarily there. We did see a reprint of Unbroken Bonds. We did see a reprint of Unified Minds. We did not see really a reprint of Team Up. We did see more and more Cosmic Eclipse come out. You can still really find Cosmic Eclipse sometimes, you know, on the rare occasion at a storefront. I know over in the EU, they were still finding a lot of Cosmic Eclipse packs in different Pokeball tins and things like that. So they're still kind of out there. But Team Up really never got to that point. And because of that, Team Up booster packs, Team Up booster boxes, and some of the singles in Team Up just kind of exploded in price, with the chase card being a potential of the Latias and Latios alternate art. You can see it's kind of leveled off quite a bit. So after it hit that 1 year high, it actually did lose about 10%. It dropped down to about $720 or so. Now it's gained a little bit of that back. It's sitting at $784 currently, but about 8% lower than its 1 year high. So at least it's leveled off fairly nicely. If we look at the Magikarp and Wailord, this one's starting to come back down as well. This one's lost about 20% over the past 6 months or so. Again, just giant gains. You can see in April of 2023, this was sitting right below $200 and then jumped up quite a bit. It topped out again, just like what we saw from the Latias and Latios, jumped up to about $290. You can see that $292.40 1 year high, which it hit at the beginning of October, and then slowly started coming back down to earth. So now it's sitting at $247.45, probably still a little bit more expensive than what a lot of people would like to pay, but with so much attention being focused right now on the Sword and Shield era alternate arts and some of those other cards from the Sword and Shield era, you might want to start paying a little bit more attention to some of these to see if maybe some of these chase cards get to the level that you feel comfortable with. And that's why it's so important to make sure you have a spreadsheet, or make sure you have something written down where it's like, okay, I want this Magikarp and Wailord, but I don't want to pay more than $200 for it. That's the price that I want. That's the price that I want to focus on. And you don't pull the trigger on that card unless it gets to that point. You have to stick to the price point that you feel comfortable paying. So this is down about 20% over the past 6 months or so. Gengar and Mimikyu has also taken a decent hit, also 25-30% down from where it was in July of 2023. That's where it hit that 1 year high. So it was down to $254.75. That was at the beginning of April. You can see just a giant leap again, like what we saw from these other ones where a lot of Sun and Moon era alternate arts did get bought out. This one jumped up to $349.22 in July. That was its peak. That was its high point. So it started coming down in price a little bit earlier than some of the other alternate arts that we just looked at. It's starting to rise back up a little bit. It's sitting at $280.82. You can see it did drop down to about $270, $260 again before gaining a little bit of ground back. However, much cheaper than where it was, 7-8 months ago, where it was $350. So way better at that. The Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia. This is one of the I think the three cards that are an alternate art that feature 3 different Pokemon. So this is a little bit different. This one's from Cosmic Eclipse. This one for a while was the most expensive one because it was so playable. Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia were very, very playable back in the day. This one, like the other ones, climbed quite a bit in April of 2023. It was it was a $150 card, but it ended up jumping up to about $224 in October. And like what we saw from the first two, the Magikarp and Wailord and the Latias and Latios, October is when the downfall kind of started. So we hit March, it dropped down to about $170, and now it's kind of stayed flat over the past month and a half or so. It's sitting at $166.97, so only about $15 more than where it was a year ago, which isn't too bad. Now, well below where it was 7 months ago when it was at that $224.38 price point. So definitely a much better price point on that one. The Gavor Sylveon also coming down in price, very near to its 1 year low, currently sitting at $174.97, which is just off of its 1 year low of $171.55. Still very expensive, but if you're trying to deliberate between buying an Umbreon V alternate art from Evolving Skies or a Gardevoir and Sylveon alternate art, now that they're pretty close in prices, might want to start looking at some of these Sun and Moon era ones again. You can see this one also topped out right around October. It jumped up to $239.20. So it's lost about $60, $68 over the past 6-7 months. Definitely a much better price point on that one. The Megasaab and Tyranitar, this one started falling a little bit earlier, maybe in August of 2023. You can see kind of going backwards a little bit. 176.86 is where it was when it hit that 1-year high, and now it's actually at a 1-year low currently. So it's sitting at 119.73, which is basically its 1-year low of 119.08, which it hit a few weeks ago. So much better than where it was even a year ago now at this point, and continuing to trend in the downward direction. That Megasaab and Tyranitar is from Unified Minds. Then we've got the Blastoise and Piplup. This one also going backwards, but not as severe of a drop. This one took a little bit longer to get going. You can see in April of 2023, it was still only at about $85, so not as expensive a year ago as some of the other alternate arts. And this one doesn't quite have the intricacies and the details as some of the alternate arts, but still a beautiful card from Cosmic Eclipse. Again, lots of Cosmic Eclipse packs still being open, despite the fact that it's basically a $20 booster pack, somewhere between $15 and $20 for a Cosmic Eclipse booster pack. But a lot of people still being able to find them out and about. Like I said, over in the EU, they had a bunch of success finding them recently. This one did top out in October, much like what we saw with some of these other ones. 136.76 is where it hit, and it started slowly coming back down a little bit. It's lost about 30% over the past 7 months. It's sitting at 105.65, so still well above its 1-year low, but well below its 1-year high. So definitely coming down to earth a little bit more. Same thing with the Raichu and the Alolan Raichu. This one also from Unified Minds. A very steep gain from May of 2023 up until October of 2023. Again, another card that was sub $100 in May of 2023, then jumped very quickly. You can see it passing $150 basically in the span of a month, then continued to climb all the way up to $189.02. But you can see it's lost about $70 over the past 6-7 months. It hit that 120-ish mark in December of 2023, and it's basically been at that point now for the past 5 months, sitting at 119.50. Then we have the Slowpoke and Psyduck, also from Unified Minds. This one also at a 1-year low currently and continuing to trend downward. Very steep gains right away. Again, you can see in April of 2023, this was a sub $90 card. It did jump up, where in October of 2023, it was at $111.99, and now it's lost quite a bit. So basically everything that it gained from April up until October, it has lost and then some. So it's sitting at $82.17 currently and continuing to trend downward, which is very exciting for that one. Then we have the Rowlet and Alolan Executor. This is a very cool looking card and relatively cheap compared to some of the other ones, sitting at $44.38 currently, which is very close to its 1-year low, which it hit actually a few weeks ago. It was down to $42.77, so that's even lower than where it was last year at this time. It did peak in October. It did start its descent a little bit later than some of these other ones. It jumped up to $65.94, which isn't too bad, but then the wheels started falling off and it started coming down. So now much cheaper, much better place on that one. Naganadel and Guzzlord did start this gain a little bit earlier and started its descent a lot earlier. In April of 2023, this was sitting at about $42, jumped up to $59.02 as its 1-year high. And then in July, that's when it started falling apart. In March of 2024 is when it hit its 1-year low, about $38.72, and it's been relatively flat since then. So still sitting at that 1-year low currently. This one from Cosmic Eclipse. Then we've got the Pheromosa and Buzzwole from Unbroken Bonds. This one didn't have as much room to grow. In July of 2023 is actually where it hit its 1-year high of $44.85. Now it's lost about $12, or about 30% of that over the past 8 months or so. It started its descent all of a sudden in August, and it's hit $32.95 recently. That's a 1-year low for that Pheromosa and Buzzwole. The Marshadow and Machamp GX, this one's really cool as well. This one also from Unbroken Bonds. In April of 2023, it was sitting at about $75. It grew quite a bit, jumped all the way up to about $97.02. You can see it hit its peak in about November, and then in December is really when it started going backwards. You can see in December it started going down, and then beginning of March, end of February, very close to that 1-year low, started going up a little bit but wasn't able to sustain, and now it dropped back down to $68.56 as its 1-year low. So another Sun and Moon alternate art that's sitting at a 1-year low currently, just like this one from Unbroken Bonds, the Muck and Alolan Muck. Really cool artwork on this one. Love the color scheme. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. In October of 2023, this was sitting at a one-year high of $54.58. It's lost 40% of that over the past 6 months or so. Dropped down to about $34.47 recently. And that's basically where it's sitting right now. So much, much cheaper on that one. Then we've got the Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. I think this one, and then there's one more after this one. But this one saw a very big increase from May up until July of 2023, where it jumped up to $79.88 from basically a $60 card. So it jumped up about 30% over the course of a month and a half or so, and then slowly started coming down. The difference with this one is in March, when it hit that one-year low of $59.61, it started climbing back up. So now it's sitting at $69.02, right in between its one-year high and one-year low. And then we've got the Greninja and Zoro, also from Unbroken Bonds. This one's a little bit more all over the place. This one definitely followed a different pattern than a lot of the other ones, but you can start seeing in May of 2023, it started growing quite a bit, and it didn't hit its one-year high until December of 2023, where it hit that $98.93 mark. But overall, it hasn't really fluctuated that much in price over the past year, unlike a lot of these other alternate arts. So it has dropped down to $91.03. That's not too far off of its one-year low, which it was at in May of 2023. You're looking at about 3-4% above that point. Currently, at least it's about 10% lower than its one-year high, which it hit in December of 2023. So definitely some opportunities here, something that maybe if these are pieces that you want to add to your collection, maybe now's the time where you start making a budget. You put down a price that you want to pay for a certain card, and you're like, okay, well, this is getting closer and closer to this point. But with all the attention being on Sword and Shield alternate arts and Sword and Shield cards in general, Sun and Moon definitely starting to look a little bit better. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention as why it's important not to FOMO, because a lot of content was being created at this time last summer about these cards, and a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, I want these cards, and maybe bought these cards for a little bit more than they should have. And if they would have waited and not bought when it was getting peaked up like crazy and getting hyped up like crazy, now you can see much better price points than where they were at 7-8 months ago, when a lot of I don't know if that's going to happen with Sword and Shield alternate arts, or these cards that are moving like crazy in Sword and Shield. And that's why it's important to remember that if you miss out, it's not the end of the world. Don't make decisions based off of emotion, but with the cyclical movements of the market, that's why it's so important that you don't make those rash decisions, and just kind of pay attention, stick to your budget, stick to your mindset, and things should work out because of how the market typically goes. So I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch the video. Love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Trust in the same thing. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you again soon. Peace.